Welcome into this fireside chat edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us as we are going to break down how the AFC looks after the NFL trade deadline. We'll talk about your Kansas City Chiefs and how they stack up amongst the other top teams in the AFC, from the Buffalo Bills to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Houston Texans, and the Baltimore Ravens, coming up in just a matter of moments as things have gotten very interesting, folks. We'll go over all of it here in just a few moments. Before we do, folks, a reminder, join us for our watch party coming up this Sunday as your Kansas City Chiefs square off against the Denver Broncos. Our coverage begins at 11 a.m. Central Time with our hour-long pregame show. As we'll catch you down to kickoff, I'll be here. Big Tex will be here. Sub for Dubs. We're closing in on 61,000 subscribers on the channel, but we need your help to get there. Sub it up for everything Kansas City Chiefs all season long, right here in your one-stop shop for all things Chiefs here. The Chiefs Report. Subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did. Let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs, sitting pretty at 8-0, and the Chiefs, although they didn't make a move on trade deadline day, they still made a couple of notable moves prior to the deadline, bringing in DeAndre Hopkins a couple weeks ago at the wide receiver position. They also added edge rusher Joshua Uche from the New England Patriots. And Uche last week had a couple tackles, not a bad showing at all. He'll get more involved here in the coming weeks. DeAndre Hopkins with a big breakout game on Monday night, had 8 catches for over 80 yards and 2 touchdown scores. DeAndre Hopkins was fantastic. And I think the thing about the Kansas City Chiefs, compared to everyone else that we're talking about today, not only do they have the best record of any team in the American Football Conference, but they also, I believe, have their best football still in front of them at this point in time. Through those 8 games, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think most people would say, have not played to their full potential, have not looked great. It's been good enough to win those games, but they haven't looked great in that stretch. And I still think there's some great football ahead for this Kansas City Chiefs team when you look the rest of the way here in 2024 of what they have going for them. And you look at this upcoming schedule of games. You play Denver this week, you should be fine. Then you play at Buffalo. And that could arguably be the toughest test of the season so far for the Chiefs, going on the road to Buffalo in November. There might even be weather conditions. Who knows, potentially speaking. But that is going to be a fantastic matchup to see how they compare with one of the best teams in the AFC. Then you play at Carolina. You should be fine there. You take on the Las Vegas Raiders. That should be an easy win there on Black Friday. And then the month of December, you begin with the LA Chargers at home. That should be fine. Cleveland on the road. Cleveland looks awful, one of the most disappointing teams in the league. You get Houston at home just prior to Christmas. Then you play at the Steelers on Christmas, and then you wrap up at Denver on Week 18. So you look at the schedule the rest of the way for the Kansas City Chiefs. Realistically, what? You're only talking 3 tough games, maybe, between Buffalo, Houston, and Pittsburgh. That's very manageable. And you're going to get Isaiah Pacheco back. You're going to see more of DeAndre Hopkins in the coming weeks. Travis Kelce's been playing a lot better as of late. The defense looks fantastic. I think you're in great shape. You're sitting pretty if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. You're 8-0. You added a couple pieces. You're going to get some more guys back, including Pacheco here. The vibes are immaculate for the Kansas City Chiefs with the way things are going in this division right now. I feel pretty dang good, if I'd say so myself. Let's head to Buffalo now and talk about the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are sitting at 7-2 at the moment, and their big addition was adding Amari Cooper a couple weeks prior to the trade deadline, getting some much-needed help at the receiver position. Josh Allen has looked like the MVP so far this year, and that was even without Amari Cooper. And now Cooper's in that mix. He's without question their best receiver there. That offense was already looking good without Cooper. Now you bring him in. That adds a whole other element to this offense. And also, they're getting Von Miller back as well, a key piece to that Buffalo Bills defense. That's a difference maker there. And so if you're Buffalo, you're 7-2. You already got the division pretty much locked up. I don't think the Jets or the Dolphins are going to do anything, and the Patriots sure certainly aren't. I like the spot that the Buffalo Bills are in, and we're going to learn a lot when these two teams square off here in a couple of weeks. You look at what's ahead for Buffalo. You play at Indianapolis this upcoming week. That should be a win. Chiefs game's a toss-up game. You get a bye week, week 12, and then coming down the stretch. San Francisco at home, tough game. At L.A., at Detroit, New England, New York, and New England. So you do have a tough stretch where you get KC, San Fran, L.A., and Detroit. Those 4 games. But then a cupcake to end the final 3 weeks here for Buffalo with New England, New York, and New England again. I'll say this. I don't see the Bills catching up to the Chiefs. I would be very surprised if the Bills take home field advantage in the AFC. Could they be the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC? Potentially so. That very well may be the case. But I don't think that they're going to take away that first-round bye. Even if the Buffalo Bills win, that still puts them a game back, still trying to make up ground. Watch out for the Bills, but I do not think they're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC by any means, based on the way things are at right now. More to come here on the Chiefs Report, but first, I want to take a moment to tell you about today's sponsor. That is Game Time. Game Time is the best place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether you're looking for tickets to sporting events, concerts, theater productions, comedy shows, and more, Game Time has got you covered. Game Time's got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, looking for tickets to your next Kansas City Chiefs game or events around the Kansas City area. Game Time has got you covered, folks. You'll want to be on the lookout for their super deals. If you see a super deal, that's the deal you don't want to pass up on. They also have their seat views, so you can get the visuals, see what that seat is like, and then you're checking out on Game Time with Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. Just choose the event, choose your seat, and then you're checking out just like that. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. All right, let's head to Pittsburgh now and talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are currently at 6-2, and they have played a lot better football, especially offensively, in recent weeks since elevating Russell Wilson to the starting quarterback role. They're currently at 6-2. Made a trade for Mike Williams, not a bad receiver. Did give up a 5th-round pick, which is just hilarious considering what the Chiefs gave up for DeAndre Hopkins. I'd much rather have D-Hop than I would Mike Williams. You also had Preston Smith from the Packers. Steelers already have a decent defense, so Preston Smith to that mix is a pretty decent fit there. But you look ahead what's coming up for Pittsburgh here. You play Washington on the road this week. Washington has been one of the biggest surprises in the NFL this year. That's a tough game. You play at Baltimore. That's a tough game. Cleveland, you should handle business. You play at Cincinnati. That's a tough one. Cincinnati's played better as of late. Cleveland, again, should be fine. Philadelphia on the road. That'll be a tough game. Baltimore on the road. Tough game. Kansas City at home. Tough game. And then Cincinnati at home on Week 18. This is a gauntlet that's ahead for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I don't think the Steelers are going to come close to competing for home field advantage in the AFC. But we're going to learn a lot about this Pittsburgh Steelers team to see if they are really battle-tested or not. If they are legit, we're going to find out pretty quickly if they are that team, if they could potentially contend or not pretty quickly. I like what I've seen from Russ, and they have some really good players. You know, T.J. Watt's one of the best defensive players in football. You look at George Pickens. You know, they got some pretty decent running backs there. I'm intrigued by that Christmas game coming up here in a few weeks from now as well. What will be the Chiefs' final record? Get your predictions in the comment section. Let us know what you think the Chiefs' final record is. Let's head to Houston now and talk about the Houston Texans. This team was kind of the sexy pick besides Kansas City to win the AFC. There was a lot of talk about Houston entering 2024, coming off a very good season with their rookie quarterback, C.J. Stroud. I was impressed. And right now they're sitting at 6-3. They did lose Stephon Diggs for the remainder of the season. He's been placed on IR, and they traded Khalil Davis. I thought the Texans were one of the biggest losers of the trade deadline because they didn't do anything, and they didn't replace Stephon Diggs. If you are serious about trying to contend with Kansas City, why would you not replace Stephon Diggs and try to keep up with the Joneses, pun intended, in the AFC race? To me, it just didn't make any sense. And moving on from Khalil Davis, I don't think it's a huge deal because they weren't really using him much anyway. They'll be fine without Davis there. But to me, that was a head-scratcher why Houston didn't make any moves. I think that losing Diggs is a huge loss. I think that's going to set them back. I think we saw it firsthand with the game against the New York Jets the other night when that offense looked so lethargic. You look at what's ahead for Houston. You get Detroit this week. Tough game. They get them at home, though. You play at Dallas. I don't think Dallas is very good, and they're without Dak. You should win that. Tennessee at home, at Jacksonville. You should win those. You get a bye. Then you play Miami there at home, at Kansas City. Then Baltimore at home, and you finish up with Tennessee. So you have a few tough matchups. KC, Baltimore, and Detroit. But the rest of the schedule is pretty manageable. I'm very curious how Stroud is going to navigate without Stephon Diggs and company. I'm just not buying in with what they did. I think it was a mistake on their part not to find a real replacement there for Stephon Diggs there in Houston. Meanwhile, let's head to Baltimore and talk about the Ravens real quick. The Chiefs obviously got a win week 1 on opening night against the Baltimore Ravens. Then the Ravens lost a shocker to the Raiders week 2, started off 0-2, and then they went on a run, winning 5 straight. Lost to Cleveland, bounced back with a just dominating win against the Denver Broncos, 41-10. And now you look at what's coming up for the Baltimore Ravens here. You play the Bengals on Thursday Night Football tonight. That's going to be a fantastic game. That game is in Baltimore. I give the edge to the Ravens, but it's going to be a close one. You play at Pittsburgh. That's a tough game there. We got the Harbaugh Brother Bowl coming up on Monday Night Football there on Thanksgiving week. I think that's going to be a fun game. I lean towards the Ravens, but I think that both teams are going to be playing for their coaches. A little bit of pride on the line there, even if the Chargers aren't that great of a football team. Philadelphia, you get at home. That's a tough one. Then you get your bye week. You play at New York. Should be an easy win. Pittsburgh at home, tough game. At Houston, tough game. And then you finish up with the Cleveland Browns. All in all, looking ahead here for this Ravens team, Cincy tough, Pittsburgh tough. We'll throw in L.A., Philly, Pittsburgh, and Houston again. You're looking at 6 tough matchups down the stretch. At 6-3, I think that's too tall of a hill of a climb to imagine the Ravens coming away with the number 1 seed in the AFC. Now, here's the thing that they do have going for them that concerns me when it comes to the playoffs. Similar to the Chiefs, Derrick Henry's been so good running the football. We know how Lamar is running the football. And that defense is pretty good. Maybe not as good as what it used to be last year. But I think that defense is going to get better as we go along through this process here. You run the ball well and you play great defense. That's a recipe for championship DNA. And of all the other teams we mentioned, this might be the one to keep an eye on. Maybe not necessarily for the race to get the number 1 seed. But as far as getting to New Orleans and winning the AFC, the Ravens are certainly an intriguing team with their recipe that they have. And adding Dante Johnson, their pass game is going to get better. They added Tre'Davious White. I don't think he's going to do a ton, but at least you add depth to the corner position. Don't sleep on Baltimore. I got my eyes peeled on them for sure. Appreciate you joining us here on the Chiefs Report. Make sure to be here on Sunday for Chiefs and Broncos. Coverage begins at 11 a.m. right here on the Chiefs Report. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.